You are Locked On Clippers Postcast, part of Locked On Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That was embarrassing. I'll say it right out of the gate. Yet another blown lead. It's becoming an epidemic for the Clippers, I think. I don't know what to do about this. Thank you for watching me here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel and listening on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. I am Pete Fox, covering sports in LA for ESPN Radio dating back to 2007, also with NBC Sports Radio. Tonight's episode of the Locked On Clippers podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Yes, I don't know what to say about this. You know, I didn't want to get too excited coming in against the Bucks in Milwaukee on the back of a second night of a back-to-back. But then I heard that Giannis Antetokounmpo is not playing. Khris Middleton not playing. So then I'm a little excited. How can you not be, right? I look at this Bucks team and I'm like, they're pretty much all about Giannis, right? And a little bit about Damian Lillard. I mean, Lillard's a stud. Let's not overlook that. Those two guys are great. I'm not going to take anything away from Damian Lillard. He tonight was a huge part of this win for them. 41 points. They kind of speculated that he'd need like 50 to win this game. Pretty darn close. But the Clippers, I don't know. I mean, their energy in the fourth quarter is disgustingly absent. It is just not anywhere to be found. Almost like they don't care. Whatever. We won last night. Big win yesterday in Minnesota against the T-Wolves. You can't expect us to win on back-to-back nights against two good teams, can you? Yes? Oh, God, that fourth quarter was just like, it's abysmal. 40-25, they were outscored in the fourth quarter. Bucks went on a 10-0 run, and the Clips just like kind of said, all right, whatever. It's good. We played good for 3.5 quarters. 3 quarters. What do you want from us? It's just they had this, excuse the pun, as we're playing the Bucks, but they had a deer in the headlights look about them. Just like, look at that. It's a wide open 3 for Lillard. And another one. And another one. Bobby Portis Jr. was on fire off the bench. They didn't seem to want to stop him at all. 12 of 18. He only had 2 threes. God, it seemed like more. 28 points. 16 rebounds. How do you let Bobby Portis Jr. get 16 rebounds? Jeez. Lillard, 42 minutes. 12 of 22. 4 threes. About half of them at least were from 35 feet away. Perfect from the line, 41 points again. The other thing that plagued the Clippers tonight, their free throw shooting. I guess that's bound to happen. 64%. They're normally like 85, 90. Again, probably if they get closer to that number and miss, 4 or 3 like they normally do, they're in a much better position. 5 more points, 5 or 6 more points at the free throw line. That would have been very, very clutch. They came out of the gate playing well, got some steals early. I think the Bucks were kind of like, well, we'll see how this goes. We'll try to hang around as best we can, without Giannis and Middleton. We'll just, they had nothing to lose. As they say, the Bucks were playing with house money. Winners of 5 in a row, nice little win streak. If they lose without Giannis, it's cool. We gave it our best. And that's what it felt like. The Clippers were, doing what they needed to do, or they got some steals. Paul George started hot. They went on a 9-0 run in the first. They just couldn't stop Damian Lillard. So Lillard single-handedly kept the Bucks in this game early. And then you get to the second, Kawhi Leonard, who had a slow start, kind of got going a little bit. Tice and Bones Highland hit some threes. So they were making threes. Harden was 4 of 7 shooting, which compared to yesterday when he was 0 for 10, it felt like he was on a hot streak. Started making runners, and then he got hot in the second half. He was the leading scorer tonight for the Clippers He and Paul George, rather. James Harden, 9 of 16 in 37 minutes, 5 of 10 from beyond the arc for 29 points. Paul George in 36 minutes, 10 of 17, 6 of 10 from beyond the arc, but 3 of 7 from the line. Harden, 6 of 9 from the line. These are guys that do not miss that many free throws. Oh, so frustrating. I mean, this is one of those things where we've seen this story. I've been to this show. I've seen this movie before. It happened a couple of weeks ago against the Lakers, obviously in LA. But they were up 21 in that one. This one was a 15 or a 16-point lead just in the fourth quarter. If it had been a couple more, that whatever that stat was I threw out, 252-0, leading in the fourth quarter by 19 or more, would have been 252-2. But it was only 16. Because the Bucks went on a run there and just pounded the Clippers into the sand in the fourth quarter. So that's just that has to be a frustrating. I hope it's a frustrating feel for them. I hope they are pissed. I hope it's not this. Well, you can't make the whole season about one quarter. Well, you can't make the whole season about one loss. That's the Ty Lue silver lining approach to this thing. I that's what he did after the Lakers loss. And I kind of was like, all right, I understand that. You're right. But now it's becoming an epidemic. Now it's becoming a trend. Sleepy fourth quarters, sloppy, no energy, missing free throws. That deer in the headlights look is the scariest thing to me. They do not have any fight. When the other team gets going, tonight, obviously a road game. The last one against the Lakers, the Clippers were the home team, but of course, Crypto.com filled with Laker fans, so it felt like a road game as well. When the crowd is against this team, I don't know that they know how to respond. And a lot of that has to do, to me, and I love Kawhi Leonard. I'm not trying to come down on him in any way, shape, or form, and he's clearly proven that he knows how to win a championship. He has 2 of them. He's been the MVP in both of those. But when you don't have a vocal leader and you get down like that, there's nobody to kind of slap you in the face and say, hey, focus. And I don't even think Ty Lue can do it. He's the closest thing they have to a vocal leader. They get down and the momentum starts going against them and they just kind of cower. They just wither away. And that is unfortunate. We will hit the break. We'll get to the bucket list because there are some good shots on air. Unfortunately, one of the shots on the bucket list belongs to a Milwaukee Buck. Thank you for joining me here. Locked On Clippers Postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, and you can listen on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. All right, tonight's show brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet all your favorite NBA players and teams. There are quick bets you can make right in the middle of the game, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and a whole lot more. It's at FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Clippers fall in Milwaukee, blowing a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter, and they lose 113-106. It didn't kind of, the way they lost to the Lakers, that one kind of came more like an avalanche. This one was kind of more like a rolling wave where it didn't come on that fast. They made a few buckets that kind of kept them hanging around and up 3, up 6, up 3, up 6. So the onslaught from the Bucks was a little bit slower, but by the end, in the last few minutes, the Clippers kept missing shots. Kawhi missed. James Harden missed. Just a lot of misses on threes that they needed, and they could not recover from it. All right, number 5 on tonight's bucket list, a Harden to Zoo alley-oop that came at the 10:56 mark of the third. It made it 59-50, and it was just sweet. We haven't seen that in a while. James Harden has been, absent. His passes, so to speak, have been a little bit off when it comes to the alley-oop. I do believe he had one last night, but it hasn't been a regular thing. So when it happens, I like to see it. It's always fun to watch, and especially when Zoo is scoring, who had an off night yesterday. So Harden to Zoo and alley-oop made it 59-50 Clippers. Number 4, Kawhi Leonard, a 3 at the 9:26 mark of the third. That made it 62-50, and then another one just about a minute later to make it 68-54. So Kawhi Leonard hits his 2 threes in back-to-back fashion. The Clippers definitely needed that, and you started to feel really good because they were pulling away. You're like, all right, good. We're going to ice this away and get the win and move on, and we'll feel very good about ourselves after a back-to-back with 2 wins against 2 very good teams. In at number 3 on tonight's bucket list, Harden hit a deep 3 at the 8:34 mark of the fourth. That made it 87-81. The Bucks had not quite made their run yet. That was about to come right around the corner. Number 2 on the bucket list tonight, a Paul George 3. It came at the 5:35 mark of the fourth, and it was right around the time where the Bucks were making a run. So this padded the lead a little bit for the Clippers, and you thought if they could get a stop and another bucket or two, they were in the bonus for about 10 minutes, which normally is tough to beat. But when you're not making free throws like they weren't tonight, it didn't really help them out all that much. And the Bucks did a good job of not fouling. So 96-90 right there in the fourth at the 5:35 mark. Felt like for a Clipper fan, all right, we're still good. We're okay. We haven't lost this just yet. And then Norm Powell with a very similar bucket at the 1:40 mark, although they were down at this point. The Bucks had gone on a little bit of a run there, and it was a huge 3 from Norm Powell to kind of give them a little bit of life. The paddles on the chest, so to speak, kind of bring them back to life. They were breathing a little bit down, 105-99 at this point. So that is number 1A, or I should say 1B, and 1A would be Bobby Portis at the 45-second mark of the game. Hits a huge 3, and it was coming off another 3 about a minute or two earlier. He was on fire late in this game. He and his big buggy eyes. Great performance from him. That made it 110-100, and that slammed the lid on this one for the Bucks, beating the Clippers again, 113-106. The thing that I'm probably most afraid of with this is that they'll continue to not have that dog in the fourth quarter, that fight that I don't remember that guy's name, but the former head football coach of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, famous YouTube video and a post-game press conference. I even went as far as to show it to my 12-year-old daughter who plays volleyball. And they're all fairly new to the game. They've been around about a year, and they all start to get caught up in each other's shortcomings. There's not one person on our team who is head and shoulders better than the rest. So one of them starts to play poorly, they all start to play poorly. And I said, one of you has to be the dog. Someone's got to be a dog. You can't all stand around being cats. So if you know that clip, you know what I'm talking about. And that's what the Clippers need that. I don't know if it's James Harden. I don't know who it is. It's definitely not Kawhi Leonard. Is it Paul George? This is the problem. This is what I'm most afraid of with this team. They got all kinds of talent, tons of talent. They can score. There's no doubt. But when the tide starts turning against them and they start running uphill, pushing a heavy sled uphill, who's the dog? They do not have a Patrick Beverley. And as much as Patrick Beverley annoys the crap out of me with his whole routine about anybody that let me go, any of my former teams, you're on my list. I don't know if you've heard his whole rap, but he's got this rap like, he wants to kick the ass of every team he used to play for. It's like, it's business, dude. It's not personal, right? Like how he's been with like 6 teams, right? Are all of these teams circled on his whiteboard when the Bucks come to town? Oh yeah. I don't know all the teams, but let's just say it's the Hornets. Oh, and the Hornets and the Pelicans. Oh, we're going to take it to the Pelicans tonight. We're going to take it to the Hornets because they let me go. We're going to take it to the Clippers because they let me go. It's like, dude, calm down with your agendas. Oh, it just drives me nuts. But back to my point. What Pat Bev brings to the floor is this ferocious energy, which gets under the skin of most players, right? The Clippers seem to handle it pretty well tonight because they know Pat Bev. By the way, I was listening to the Milwaukee broadcast for a portion of this game, and they found out that only his mother calls him Patrick, and that's only when he's in trouble. So everybody calls him Pat or Pat Bev, right? So apologies if I just referred to him as Patrick. But he was in trouble with me a little bit because of that whole lame routine. But what Pat Bev brings is that attitude where he gets under your skin. And the main reason that it didn't bother the Clippers is because they're used to it. They know Pat Bev. He's been on their team. They're like, whatever, dude, get that routine out of here. But the fact of the matter is Bobby Portis seems to have it. There was a handful of guys, well, maybe not a handful. There was 2 or 3 guys on this team. Beasley definitely has it. I don't know about Lillard. Probably. I mean, Lillard's very cocky. He's very assured of himself. He's very aggressive. So he's probably got it. Portis. I would not say that Danilo Gallinari brings that dog to a game. The bottom line is they had 3 or 4 guys that have it. Who's got it on the Clippers? Nobody's got that dog. Maybe Norman Powell. Maybe Amir Coffey. I know who's got it. Russell Westbrook. But he's out. Broken hand. Damn. We win this game tonight with Russell Westbrook. He's got that dog. He would not let this game slip away. He'd have kicked somebody in the you-know-what. Or a bunch of people. Except for Kawhi, probably. Or Harden. Maybe Harden has it on occasion, right? I don't know. He seems pretty laid back. I don't think Harden gets upset when they lose, right? There's nobody that was upset tonight. Whatever. It's like, we're still getting paid. We're still getting our money. We're still getting our chips. We won yesterday. That was a big win. Let's forget about this one. Move on. All right. If you say so. If you say so, I'll take your word for it. I don't agree with that philosophy. I think they should be throwing things across the locker room tonight. There should be a lot of name calling in that locker room. A lot of screaming, a lot of yelling. Ty Lue should do the Bull Durham routine. Throw the bats on the floor in the shower. Although they probably don't have bats in the Clippers locker room. So I don't know what he would have to, maybe a bunch of basketballs or something. And then here's another unfortunate thing for them. They got the Rockets next. A pushover game. I feel like they need another tough one. So they got the Rockets on Wednesday. I don't know. We'll get more into this one. We'll get into some other parts of this game. I don't know if I should go with the parts that I feel good about or the parts that I'm upset and frustrated about. Let's try to be positive. After the break, we'll touch on a few things that I felt good about that were positive things to take away from this loss to the Bucks in Milwaukee, 113-106. All right, one of the things I do not feel bad about tonight is getting a prize pick going. Normally, when they're one of the sponsors of the show and we have a Clipper game, I go out and put one together. But, I probably would have gone with Kawhi because he's been red hot. Paul George has kind of been up and down. But Paul George had a great night. 10 of 17, 6 threes, 29 points. So it's hard to get, a nice selection going when their stats are just kind of up and down and all over the place. There's not really a ton of consistency out of these guys, but Prize Picks makes all that stuff a whole lot easier to find. And they give you, when you're trying to select projections, players, they give you the last 5 or 6 games. So you can look at it and go, hey, this is the run they've been on, which makes you feel good about your selection because you can see if they're hot or if they're cold. But the problem with the Clippers is one night they're hot, one night they're cold, one night they're hot, one night they're cold. So you have to kind of pick them every other night. Well, Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. And again, the cool part is it's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 players and their stat projection for the night. and the winnings roll in up to 25 times your money. Quick and easy deposits and withdrawals. Simple, easy gameplay options and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So check them out. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for the first deposit, which will match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Clippers let one slip through their fingertips, wet the bed, and left the barn door open. And as they were walking away from the open barn door, they stepped in a pile of it. So it was an ugly, epidemic type of loss for them that I am not happy about. But I'm going to try to find some positives, some silver linings. 113-106, the final. One of the silver linings for me is that Paul George got going. Now, if he can put together a couple of games where he's hot like that, as I said, I don't look at the Houston Rockets being a patsy opponent as a good next opponent for them. But the schedule is a schedule, and there's nothing you can do about it. They'll probably win that game. They probably will come out without any intensity and play poorly for 3 quarters and turn it on in the 4th and win the game, right? And I wish they had a tougher opponent that they could kind of refocus in on. The Rockets have pulled out a few decent victories of late. They're not terrible. So I feel like you never know. I mean, anything's possible. They could lose that game, but let's hope that they don't. They need to get back on track with a win coming off of this one. The Rockets are 26-34. So they're not like a single digit win team like, Washington, who we had a few nights ago. So they're a decent team, and they're 10 games over 500 at home. So maybe I'm thinking about the Rockets from early in the season. They've turned things around and are playing pretty decent basketball, especially at home at Toyota Center, or 20-10. So this game will be one they need to focus on. So that I do feel good about, that this is a game that the Clippers will have to train their attention on. They will not be able to roll over the Rockets and come out of there with a victory. And off of this loss, you don't want to put together back-to-back losses. So they will definitely need to focus and get the win. What I enjoyed about this game, some of the positives, if you will, things that I could look at and find positive in, find some silver lining that they did not screw up on, or things that they were improving on that have been problems for them of late. And I would say the turnovers, 13. That's not terrible for them. And the Bucks had 11. So they were pretty right in line with their opponent there. And the steals in the early part of the game, their defense was very good. Wasn't great, but they're a decent defensive team. They are middle of the NBA as far as their defensive statistics. So they had just 3 block shots, but the steals were 9. That's a lot. So you have to feel good about that for an average defensive team. But they are, since December 1st, that infamous date for us, they are the second best offensive team in the league. And I'm just not seeing that. I am not seeing that. And then another thing that is kind of rearing its ugly head, causing me frustrations, is the Clippers. I started doing the postcast first of the year. The first 7 to 9 games that I did, the Clippers would get a lead, generally on an inferior opponent. And one of the things that we talk about, me and my colleagues or other Clipper fans, is that the Clippers have been very good at finishing off or holding on to a lead, that so-called keeping your foot on the throat, running through the finish line, as Brian Seaman says. That is eluding them of late. And that is a very scary thing. What is that? Why are they losing their focus when they get a lead on a better team? I don't care if Giannis is there or not. Did they lose their enthusiasm or their desire to beat the Bucks because it doesn't mean the same when Giannis isn't there? Maybe. But at the same time, a win is a win is a win. and they need them, and they could have built momentum coming off that win yesterday against the T-Wolves in Minnesota, and then go into Houston, back-to-back wins against very good teams. Confidence starts to build at that point. Now their confidence has been knocked down a tick or two again. It's like one step forward, two steps back, or two steps forward, one step back, right? You make a couple of good performances, then you take a step back. Then you make another good performance, take a step back. So I don't know if it's two steps forward, one step back, or one step forward, two steps back. I think it's a little bit of both. They are just super inconsistent of late. And most importantly, when you have a lead like that against a better team, you got to win. You got to hold on. You can't let it slip through your fingertips. Demoralizing. It's becoming an epidemic. And I can't believe that I'm saying this about the Clippers, but they've got to get rid of that. They've got to do better. This is not a championship caliber team when that kind of performance can creep into your repertoire. You just got to get past that. You got to say, this is not who we are, right? I know it happens to everybody, but it can't happen too frequently, right? They have to find that dog in the fourth quarter. They have to find that fight. They have to be able to sprint through the finish line when they have a lead, especially against a better team, when they're getting a gift. This one was gift wrapped for them. Giannis is out. And if that's not enough for you, Khris Middleton is out. All you have to do is slow down Damian Lillard, which I know is hard to do. Even if you don't slow down Damian Lillard, you'll still probably win the game. Just don't give up 20 plus to Bobby Portis Jr. Wrong. 28 for Bobby Portis. Nobody else even had a big game. Pat Bev had 12. Crowder 3, Lopez 6. So it's just, it's bordering on unforgivable if you asked me. It's not what championship caliber teams do. Unless right now someone's in there, making a mess of the visitors' locker room at Fiserv because they're so ticked off at this performance, right? It doesn't have to be a leader. It could be anybody. It could be PJ Tucker for all I care. Somebody go in there and start throwing stuff and cussing and yelling at people and challenging them. That's what this team needs. I don't think Terrence Mann's the guy. Definitely not Zubats. Maybe Paul George, but I doubt it. I don't know Bones Highland that well. Somebody. PJ Tucker's a veteran. Do something, PJ. Yell at this team. Get them to refocus. This is unacceptable. Let's run through the stats real quick. Paul George, 29. Kawhi Leonard, 16. 6 of 19 shooting, well below his average. Zubats had 6. Harden, 29. Another big night for him, which is awesome. I shouldn't say another, but coming off an 0 for 10 performance with 4 points. Awesome. Terrence Mann in 19 minutes, 1 of 4 for 4 points. Need more out of him, and normally we get it, but not tonight. Daniel Tice, 3 of 6. He hit a 3. 1 of 2 from beyond the arc for 7 points. Bones Highland played 11 minutes, had 5 points. Amir Coffey had 4 points, and Norman Powell had 6 points. So those last two, 10 points between Coffey and Powell, that's not nearly enough. It should be like 30 between those two. So there was just a lot going wrong for the Clippers tonight. And I guess you can attribute a lot of it to the fact that it was a big game yesterday, and this was the back end of a back-to-back. So there is a little bit of an excuse, but I hope they take more of the learning moment here in this loss and build on that and say this stuff cannot happen if we want to make a run at winning the Larry O'Brien trophy. All right, Clippers fall in Milwaukee at Fiserv to the Bucks, 113-106. They're now 18-13 on the road, 39-21 on the season. Bucks are 41-21, 25-7 at home. Off tomorrow being Tuesday, back at it on Wednesday in Houston at the Toyota Center against the Rockets. Have a good night. We will talk to you then. Thank you for joining me here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel and listening to us on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. Have a good night. Talk to you on Wednesday.